Christmas in Avalon, Part 1. Far to the north of the kingdom, a lone figure made his way through the snow, leaving a faint trail of red behind him. The man didn't stop to tend to his wound, and he didn't look back at the droplets of red slowly spreading into a light pink on the frozen canvas behind him. Nor did he stop to appreciate how the sunlight danced across the frozen landscape. There was no joy of the season for Bors the Elder. He only stopped when he'd returned to the small cottage he'd built. He bandaged the cuts running down his side. It was shallow. He knew in a couple of weeks it would be healed, and he'd suffered much worse. For years now, he'd lost track of how long. Bors had travelled to other realms and back, slaying all manner of monsters. Once he'd been a king. Now, even the 4 unadorned wooden walls of his makeshift cottage represented a luxury for him. He stoked a fire to keep himself warm through the night. As he did, he thought of the frost giant he'd slain earlier that day. It was the reason he'd come so far north. The frost giants were getting more violent and venturing into human territory. Bors could sense Morgana's presence behind the frost giant's newly aggressive turn. That night, Bors dreamed of his sons. He knew the 2 of them, Lionel and Bors the Younger, would be grown men by now, but he hadn't seen them since they were children. He'd been so arrogant that he brought them alongside him into battle against his rival King Claudas. Bors the Elder had been defeated and left for dead, and now he could barely remember what his sons looked like. It was only by the grace of the Lady of the Lake that Bors had survived his battlefield wounds, but in return for her help, he'd bound himself to her service. In his dream, however, Bors was back in the centre of the kingdom, in a finely appointed castle, and his sons were with him, both of them handsome young knights. Alongside them was the wizard Merlin. After exchanging pleasantries with his sons, Merlin turned to Bors. "It won't be long now," Merlin told him, "before you can return to see them. But first, we need your help. Now, wake up! You have a visitor!" Bors woke up to the sound of knocking at the door. It was morning. He rose from his bed and opened the door. There was a thin, tough-looking woman waiting impatiently for him on the other side, clad in armour. "So, Merlin sent you," Bors said, and motioned the woman inside.
"That he did,"
she said.
"I'm Lady Keris."
Bors only grunted in response.
"And you would be Bors the Elder then?"
Bors grunted again.
"They told me you used to be a king."
Keris looked around with a sneer.
"Don't have very regal manners, do you? Not much of a castle either."
"Keeps me from freezing. That's good enough for me," Bors said. "Now, deliver your message and be gone with you."
"Oh no,"
Keris shot back.
"Merlin sent me here on a quest. I'm not to return until it's finished. He told me to tell you that the Lady of the Lake had requested your aid as well."
"You're a sorceress then?" Bors asked, warming his hands above the remaining embers of last night's fire. Keris pulled a face.
"I'm a warrior."
"Ha!"
"That amuses you?"
she asked. "They sent me a girl to look after," Bors muttered. "So, what did you do wrong to get sent up here?"
"A knight mocked me for calling myself a warrior, so I ran my sword through him."
Keris glared at Bors.
"He survived, unfortunately, and Merlin said as long as I was going to use such violence, I could at least redeem myself by employing it to aid you in an important quest. So here I am."
Bors turned to her. "What quest? All I'm doing is slaying frost giants up where no man dwells."
"Exactly."
Keris grinned and snapped her fingers.
"Merlin needs us to rescue some lord from the king of the frost giants. He says Morgana's riled the frost giants up horribly, and this lord could help us."
"Who?"
"All I know is he's old and wears red, and he's connected to some animals, like he's lord of the, I don't know, caribou or some such."
"Reindeer?" Bors asked.
"That's it."
Keris snapped again.
Reindeer. Merlin said to find him, follow the reindeer.
Great, Bors said. Now I know what to do. You can go back to the kingdom, stop pretending to be a warrior, and don't stab any more men. I'll handle this. Keris's face darkened and she reached for her sword, then stopped herself.
So what did you do?
She asked. What?
You asked what I'd done wrong to get sent up here. Well, why are you in these blasted wastes fighting giants?
Bors sighed and looked her in the eyes. I lost everything in battle to my nemesis. He captured my sons. The Lady of the Lake saved my life, promised to keep my sons safe, but in return I've devoted my life to helping her understand the monsters that threaten our kingdom.
Your sons are Bors the Younger and Lionel, right? They're Knights of the Round Table now.
Keris said.
I know them. If we undertake this quest together, I'll tell you everything you want to know about them.
Bors said nothing, but picked up his battle hammer and lashed out at her, quick as a snake. Just as quickly, Keris drew her sword and parried. The hammer smashed through the wooden wall to her right. Bors pulled it back and struck again. Keris dodged and then parried another blow from him, shock riding down her arms. Just as suddenly, Bors stopped and put his battle hammer down. Fine, he said. You seem strong enough to survive out here. Now, let's get this over with. We have reindeer to follow and a lord to rescue. Keris grinned and gestured at the cottage door.
After you, old man.
Part 2. They headed straight north. The weather grew colder, the snow deeper, the wind stronger, and the mountains higher. As they walked, Keris told Bors of his sons and their exploits as Knights of the Round Table. After a day, they discovered a distinctive set of hoof prints in the snow. They followed the tracks, and after long enough, they could hear the faint tinkle of a bell ahead of them. They followed the sound until they came upon the reindeer in a small clearing. It stood tall, with chestnut fur and red harness around its neck, at the end of which was a golden bell. Bors trod forward towards it, but at the sound of him, the reindeer bolted forward through the snow. Lady Keris glared at him.
Next time, stay still and let me handle it.
Bors only grunted in response. Suddenly, they heard the reindeer's bell once more. In fact, the bell seemed to be getting closer, and its ringing more frequent.